Hey guys, welcome to How to Build a Bulletproof Bum Part 2. In this video we're going to be talking about how to build strength in the glute max muscle. If you've not seen Part 1 yet, make sure you watch that first. Right, let's get on with the video. Okay, so our gluteus maximus muscle, the big chunk of tissue here that sits at the back of the bum, is the one that everyone thinks about when they talk about their glutes. Now, this muscle is incredibly important. Its main role is to extend the hip. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, that's not a movement you do all that often, but what you've got to remember is every time your hip is flexed, your glute max is contracting to bring it from that position. Okay, which is something you do with every single step when you're walking or running. It's something you do when you're cycling, when you're jumping, and also when you're going from a seated position to a standing position. Now, if this muscle is weak, which it is in a lot of people, then what tends to happen is the lower back muscles try to compensate. They take over some of the workload. As a result, your lower back muscles become incredibly overworked, they become tired, and they become painful. A lot of clients I see who have lower back pain also have weak glutes, and that is no coincidence. Okay, so just as we did when we did the glute medius and minimus, we're going to start off by stretching and lengthening the opposing muscle group. In the case of the glute max, the opposing muscle group is the hip flexors across the front of the hip here. If you've got weak glute max, then you're bound to have tight hip flexors, which means when we try and do our strengthening exercises, these muscles will be trying to battle against us and just make it a little bit harder to do. So to stretch out the hip flexors, we're going to get into this position here. Okay, we're going to put one of our legs up like so. So in this case, we're stretching out the hip flexor on the left-hand side. I'll do it this way actually, so you'll be able to see it a little bit easier. So we're now stretching out the hip flexor on the right-hand side. Before you dive into the typical hip flexor stretch that you see everyone do, we're actually going to start by tilting our pelvis. So you're going to tuck your tailbone under like so. And as soon as you do that, you're going to feel a stretch down this leg here, across the front of the leg and into the quads. When you've done that, you can then shift your body weight forward, and you're not actually going to have to go far to start really feeling a stretch on this side. Okay, find the point where you feel the stretch, and you're going to hold that for around about 10 seconds. Take a deep breath in, and then exhale, and just see if you can go any further forward, just to increase that stretch along the front there, and then hold that for around about 20 seconds. Do one side, and then repeat on the other side, stretch off those hip flexors. Okay, so now that we've stretched out and lengthened the opposing muscle group, we can start thinking about strengthening the glute max muscle. And we're going to start off with an exercise that I imagine you're all familiar with, which is just a good old-fashioned glute bridge. But we're going to make a few little changes just to make sure you're maximizing the contraction in the glute max. So first off is your starting position. So you're going to lie yourself down on your back like so. Now the first thing to note is the proximity of your feet to your body. If your feet are further away, you're going to be relying on the hamstrings more than the glute muscles. So bring those feet in nice and close to the body. Okay? Now the next thing to think about is when you're actually pushing up, try to drive through the heels. If you find that difficult to do, then actually lift your toes up off the floor so only your heels are on the floor, and that's going to guarantee you're driving through the heels. Then before you actually start the first drive up, you're just going to tilt your pelvis to flatten your lumbar curve. So if you put your hand underneath your back, you'll feel there's a bit of space. You just want to try and flatten your hand into the floor. So start off with that lower back flattened right down to the floor. Okay, so pushing through the heels, feet nice and close to the body, and keeping that lumbar flat, okay, and then drive up like so. Now another mistake that a lot of people make here is they try to overextend. They go way too far up. In reality, you only need to get to the point where you've got a nice straight line from your shoulders to your knees. When you're in that position, squeeze your glutes as if you're trying to squeeze something between your bum cheeks to maximize that contraction, and then slowly come back down and then reset by pushing that lower back into the floor before you repeat the exercise. Okay? What I'd suggest is work up on this one until you can do 3 sets of 15 reps. When you can do that, it's time to increase the difficulty of the exercise. Now, a really good way to do that is to start doing the single leg version. So same principle, just that this time we're going to take one foot off the floor and then drive up. So we're only targeting one side, and that one side is taking all our weight. And again, build up to being able to do 3 sets of 15 on each side. Okay, next up we're going to do a kneeling hip hinge exercise. Really, really simple one, but again, a couple of little nuances just to make sure you really get it right. So all you're going to do is you're going to start off in this position here, leaning forward slightly at the hips like so, and you're going to go from here to all the way up like so. Okay, now the really important things to make sure you do here is as you're coming up, really think about squeezing those glutes. Okay, really, really important to get that maximum glute contraction when you're doing this exercise. So all the way down if you can, all the way down onto heels. If you can't, just go as low as you can, and then drive up and squeeze those glutes as you do. Now when you get to the top, try and snap the hips. When you do that, we're not overextending, so we're not leaning back like this. We're just coming up to the point where we've got a nice straight line. So you should be able to drop your shoulder down and have a straight line from your shoulder down to your knee. Okay, so push back, drive up, squeeze the glutes, snap the hips at the top to a straight line position, hold at the top for up to 5 seconds, squeezing those glutes, then just relax, come back down and repeat. Again, work up to 3 sets of 15 reps. Now when you can get to 15 reps on this one, making sure you're getting that maximum contraction, a good way to make sure you increase the difficulty is just to hold some weight. So if you grab a weight plate or grab anything you've got at home with some weight in it, hold it on your front here, you're just carrying a bit more weight as you're driving those hips forward. Okay, great exercise for strengthening the glute max. Okay, so the final exercise is actually something a little bit different, and it's a bit different because it's something you can do anywhere, at any time, as long as you are sat down. And literally, I'm doing it right now while I talk to the camera. And all I am doing is actually contracting my glutes. So as I'm sat in this position, I'm squeezing my bum cheeks together, currently doing both left and right at the same time. And just contracting, holding for a few seconds, and then releasing. So just think about really squeezing those glutes together like so. And then to make this one a little bit more advanced, you can start having a bit of fun with it. So just do one side at a time. So at the moment, I'm just contracting and squeezing the right hand side. Okay, and then I move on and do the left hand side. And then my absolute favourite version of this is to squeeze and hold one side. So I'm going to contract the right hand glute and hold that contraction. And then at the same time, I'm going to do individual squeeze and release reps on the left hand side. And then swap over, hold the contraction in the left and do individual reps on the right. Now, as I say, this is brilliant because you can do it absolutely anywhere as long as you're sat down. You could be driving, you could be sat at a dinner table, you could be doing work, you could be sat on the sofa, and you can actually start strengthening those glutes in the position that normally would actually be a big cause of weakening those glutes, which is being sat down. So this one, do it several times throughout the day. You could actually set yourself an alarm on your phone to do it 4 or 5 times a day, or you could just remind yourself every time you sat down, oh, actually, I'll do some glute exercises. It's a really good way to build strength in the glute max and to build a bit more control. Okay, so that is it. Thank you very much as always for watching, guys. That was how to build a bulletproof bum part 2, and that completes this 2-part series. Now what you may find is with the exercises we've done today particularly, they may start feeling a little bit easy quite quickly. that's absolutely fine. It just means you're ready to start progressing onto more technical exercises. So things like a kettlebell swing, for example, is a great step up from some of these exercises. But make sure you start here. It's really important when it comes to building glute strength that you lay the foundations before you start moving on to those more advanced exercises. Particularly if you are someone who suffers with lower back pain, start here, build up that strength, and then start thinking about the more advanced stuff. I hope that helps, guys. If you've enjoyed the video, please make sure you give me a like and subscribe to the channel, hit the little notification bell, and you'll make sure that you hear about my future videos. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one.